Hi BookTube, this is Johnny. Thought I'd make a video even though it might be kind of difficult. I'm down on the lower level because our daughter Bethany and her husband Andy and their 3 children, Louisa, Margaret, and Jack, are visiting us. They're upstairs and I'm down on the lower level, which is really nice because it's a lot cooler down here than upstairs. According to my clock, it's 68 degrees down here. It is 9:06. It is July the 4th, 2018. It is a Wednesday night. I just got finished writing in my diary for the day. I ended on page 516 for this year thus far, and I was watching BookTube videos and people were showing, I think Richard Reed's was showing books that he got at a 4th of July used book sale, and I mentioned that every year I try to go to a big huge book sale in Grand Rapids at the Cascade District Library. And I thought I just wrote down all the books in my diary, and I thought I'd show them to you. Let me see. Here's the first stack. I know I can all get them here. I found the Best of Beston selection from the Natural World of Henry Beston, from Cape Cod to St. Lawrence. He writes about nature. And I found this book called Mystery Train, Images of America and Rock and Roll Music by Greg Marcus. He writes on music, and I think he wrote for the Rolling Stones. I have his book, one of his books he wrote on the Basement Tapes by Bob Dylan. He's written other books, but I found this one. And I found this biography on the writer Edward Dahlberg, The Wages of Expectation, a biography of Edward Dahlberg by Charles DeFonte. I have a novel by this guy right here on this. So I saw this name, this Edward Dahlberg. I knew I had a book by him, so I like biographies of the writers that I have in our library. And then I found, what else did I find? Oh, I found a biography of the writer Walker Mercy, A Life by Patrick Samway. I collect the writings, the novels of Walker Percy. You'll see that if you watch my videos that I love to write. I like to read about writers. I like to read about writing, why people write, what they write about, their lives, their struggles. So that's I like to read about writers, especially the writers of the novels that I have in our library. So I got those, and then I found The Assassin's Cloak, Anthology of the World's Greatest Diarists, edited by Irene and Adam Taylor. I collect books on diaries. I'm a diarist myself, so I was pleased to find this. And I found a biography of Joseph Conrad, The 3 Lives by Frederick R. Carl. I found out that I already had this in our library, so I'll take it to the Book Nook Friday. And then I bought a paperback copy of Whitner Chambers' famous memoir, Witness. This is the 50th anniversary edition. I have this in an old hardback, but I wanted a paperback edition. Also, I bought Dean Acheson, who was worked up until Truman Roosevelt. He was the, what does it say here? He was American Statesman of the Century. He joined the Department of State in 1941 as Assistant Secretary of State for Economic Affairs. Was continuously involved until 1953 when he left office as Secretary of State at the end of the Truman years. Throughout that time, he was one of the most influential minds and strongest wills at work. It was a period that included World War II, the reconstruction of Europe, the Korean War, development of nuclear power, the formation of the United Nations and NATO, and it goes on and on. I have this already in my library. I wasn't sure, so I'll take this to the Book Nook Friday. And then I found the New Yorker Book of War Pieces, London 1939 to Hiroshima 1945. These are all articles that were in the New Yorker magazine during the Second World War. Those who know I collect books on the New Yorker magazine, writers, editors, anthologies, all kinds of stuff. Then I found the first volume of a 2-volume, the second volume of this biography has not been published, but this is the life of Saul Bellow to Fame and Fortune, 1915 to 1964, by Zachary Leader. I have his biography of Kingsley Ames, and anyway, I was pleased to find this because I wanted it, and it cost $40 if I bought it new at a retail bookstore. Those who know that Saul Bellow is one of my favorite American writers. So, and then I found 7 Pillars of Wisdom, A Triumph by D.E. Lawrence. I found a book on the environmental movement, Coyotes and Town Dogs, Earth First, the Environmental Movement. It's like a history by Susan Zakin. Found a historical novel of the 13th century by Zoe Oldenbourg, which was translated, I think, out of French by Edward Hyams. I found, I collect the writings of William Maxwell. I think he also, let me see here. Yeah, for 40 years he was fiction editor of the New Yorker. I collect his writings. This is his ancestors. He writes a family history. And then I found Without Sin, the life and death of the Oneida community, which is an Ethiopian community in 9th century America. I collect books on the Oneida community. And then I found a biography on the British writer Richard Kipling, The Strange Ride of Richard Kipling, A Life and Work, his life and works by Agus Wilson. And then I found, I have a paperback edition of Tennessee Williams' memoirs, and I found this hardback. I found for my Bob Dylan collection a biography, No Direction Home, A Life and Music of Bob Dylan, by Robert Shelton. I found Roald Dahl's Book of Ghost Stories, Thomas Pynchon, his earlier stories, Slow Learner. I have this. This is The Darkness at Noon by Arthur Koestler. I got this because I really liked the cover. And I found this classic by Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House. I collect her writings. I didn't have this one in our library. Then I found another biography on Ulysses Grant, the man who saved the Union, Ulysses Grant in War and Peace, by the famous historian H.W. Brands, which I collect. And then I found this book, Children of the Sun, Narrative of Decadence in England After 1918 by Martin Green. This is probably the best book that this is the thing I probably like the most. Don't ask me why. And then I found the complete prose, novels, tales, journeys, the complete prose of Alexander Pushkin, a very famous Russian writer. This is translated by Richard Pevier and Larze Volskowski. So those are the used books I found today. I could have gotten a lot more, but it was hot and I had to park a long ways away from the car. And there's a big, huge book sale at our library at the end of this month. And then there's a big, huge book sale, used book sale the first week of August. And if you look, I showed you the lower level. It's pretty cramped down here. As far as what I've been reading still The Adventures and Misadventures of Mark Crow by Abelard Mutis. And I've been reading Avid Reader, A Life by Robert Galkabid. And I've been reading I Will Be Complete, a memoir by Glenn David Gould. These are the, and oh yeah, I've been reading The Devil's Redemption, A New History Interpretation of Christian Universalism by Michael J. McClyman, and reading on the Swans, the band Sacrifice and Transcendence, an Oral History by Nick Soulsby. So this is what I've been reading amidst the chaos and the grandkids, and showed you the books I got the 4th of July used book sale. So yeah, don't know what else to show you. Life keeps going. I'm having a good time with our daughter and our son-in-law Andy and our grandchildren. Today, our oldest son came over with his 2 children, Josephine and Cora, Emily. We had a big cookout, stuffed ourselves, had a good time. The girls were able to play, Josephine and Margaret and Louisa running around, and Jack running around, baby Jack and baby Cora. Carol had to go to work, unfortunately, but she's off the next 4 days after tonight. So life keeps going by. I can hear fireworks as I talk into this camera. I'm not into the 4th of July, but I'm into books. So I hope you're having a good week. Don't eat too much tonight. Don't blow yourself up with fireworks. And until next time, bye.